Area forecast discussion. Jacksonville pilots operating in and around Jacksonville today should be alert to reduced visibility hazards, especially in the early morning hours. Smoke from the ongoing wildfire in the Ocala National Forest is likely to combine with patchy fog, potentially creating superfog along State Road 40. This could result in sudden and significant drops in visibility, particularly critical for low-level VFR operations or training flights near that corridor. Otherwise, the region remains under the influence of high pressure, promoting generally fair flying weather with stable conditions and mostly VFR throughout the day. As a weak upper disturbance moves in, some increasing high cloud cover is expected later in the afternoon, but it should not meaningfully impact flight conditions. Winds will shift gradually, starting out light from the south-southeast in the morning, then increasing to around 10 to 15 knots in the afternoon, especially near the coast with the inland movement of the Atlantic sea breeze. Inland airports may see some early morning fog with brief periods of reduced visibility at some locations before sunrise, but these should clear quickly. Area forecast discussion. Miami for South Florida today, conditions remain largely favorable with little in the way of significant weather disruptions. High pressure continues to dominate the region, keeping the atmosphere quite stable from the surface through the upper levels. This means convective activity will be minimal, with only a few isolated showers possibly developing later this afternoon along the Gulf Coast sea breeze. These showers are expected to remain weak and short-lived, with little to no vertical development due to strong suppression in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. Pilots can expect generally VFR conditions area-wide, although a few scattered cumulus clouds will likely develop inland with daytime heating. Along the east coast, a steady easterly flow will bring breezy conditions by midday, with winds increasing to around 10 to 15 knots and occasional gusts up to 25 knots. This will help keep temperatures slightly cooler east of Interstate 75, generally in the low to mid-80s. Further west, especially across the interior and Gulf Coast areas, the mercury will climb into the mid to upper 80s. Area forecast discussion. Melbourne flying conditions across east central Florida today will be largely favorable, with high pressure continuing to dominate and provide a stable atmosphere. Pilots can expect smooth operations for most of the day, with visual flight rules prevailing across all terminals. While some low to mid-level cloud cover drifted ashore this morning, skies remain generally clear, and any cloud development through the afternoon will stay at higher altitudes, posing minimal impact to aviation. Surface winds will gradually increase throughout the day, particularly along the coast as the sea breeze forms and pushes inland during the afternoon. East-southeast winds will pick up to around 10 to 14 knots, with some gusts reaching 15 to 20 knots, especially south of Daytona Beach. Inland airports will also notice these increasing winds by mid to late afternoon. For those operating smaller aircraft, pilots should anticipate moderate crosswinds on east-west runways during peak heating hours, particularly at airports near the Atlantic coast. Temperatures will reach well into the 80s, contributing to strong surface heating and the inland progression of the sea breeze, though the environment remains too dry and capped to support any convection. Overnight, winds will diminish and skies will remain mostly clear, with lows dropping into the low to mid-60s inland and remaining near 70 degrees along the coast. Expect VFR to persist throughout the night with no visibility restrictions. Pilots planning early morning departures tomorrow should enjoy continued favorable flying conditions with light winds and a quiet weather pattern remaining in place. Area forecast discussion. Tampa, flying weather across the Tampa Bay region remains favorable today, with visual flight rules expected to persist throughout. A broad ridge of high pressure overhead is keeping conditions dry and stable. Winds at the surface will come from the east to southeast, increasing slightly this afternoon as a sea breeze moves in near the coast. Gusts near 10 to 15 knots may develop at coastal terminals, but should not pose major challenges for most operations. High-level clouds around 25,000 feet will move in during the day, bringing periods of filtered sun, but no restrictions to visibility or ceilings. Some scattered lower clouds around 5 to 6,000 feet may develop with daytime heating, especially inland, but convection remains unlikely. Temperatures will run several degrees above normal, adding to the inland progression of the sea breeze later in the day.